Hey everyone, welcome to Breathe and Unpack. This is our space to slow down, breathe, and talk honestly about the things life throws at us. Here, nothing is off limits: relationships, family, jobs, stress, and personal struggles. Sometimes we'll vent, sometimes we'll reflect, and every time we'll ask, what can I take away from this? You're not just listeners, you're part of our support system. That means we share, we listen, we take what we need, and we leave the judgment at the door. At the end of each episode, I'll share one simple takeaway, something you can carry with you into your own day. And I'd love to hear what you take away too. As always, we're just exploring here, breathing through what comes up and unpacking it gently at our own pace. Let's take a moment to breathe, settle in, and slowly unpack whatever is unfolding for us today. Sometimes it's not what people say, it's what you pick up on. And you don't always say it, but you notice it. Do you ever look at someone's behavior and wonder, do they actually know what they're doing? Or is this just who they are? Because sometimes it's like you're watching someone, not in a dramatic way, just in regular conversations, regular interactions, and something about how they move, how they respond, how they show up. It just makes you pause for a second. Like, did you mean that? Or is that just how you are with people? And the thing is, it's not always obvious. It's not always something big. Sometimes it's really small things. The way someone talks to you, the way they dismiss something you've said, the way they don't really hear you but they respond anyways. And in those moments, you notice it, but you don't always say anything. You just kind of take it in. And maybe later it comes back to you, or maybe it doesn't even come back fully. It just sits with you. But something about it stays. And I feel like that's where things starts to shift. Not because anything major happened, but because you're starting to see the person a little more clearly. You ever have that moment where nothing big happened, but you just look at someone differently after that? Like something clicked for you. And I think that's where the questions come in. Do they actually know what they're doing? Or is this just who they are? Because sometimes it feels intentional, like you know better than that. But other times, it doesn't feel intentional at all. It feels like this is how they move. This is how they've always been. And that's the part that gets confusing. Because if it's intentional, that's one thing. But if it's not, then what do you even do with that? And I think that's where acceptance comes in. Not in a way where you agree with everything, not in a way where you excuse everything, but in a way where you start to understand this might just be who this person is. And that doesn't always feel good because sometimes you want people to be different. You want them to show up better. You want them to understand you, but they don't or they can't. And then you're left trying to figure out, am I expecting something from someone that they're not capable of giving me? And I think what makes it even harder is when you know that if the situation was flipped, you would have handled it differently. You would have said it differently. You would have been more aware. And because of that, it's easy to feel like they're wrong. But then you have to sit with the fact that they might feel the exact same way about you. And that's where perspective comes in. Because when something feels right to you, you stand on it. In your mind, you're not wrong. But then someone else can see the exact same situation completely different. And in their mind, they're not wrong either. And it's not always that people are trying to be difficult. Sometimes they genuinely don't see it the way you do. And that's hard to accept because you're like, how do you not see this? It's right there. But to them, it's not. And you always hear people say, be open minded. But what does that actually look like? When someone is so set in how they see things, when they don't even think they need to change anything. Like, how do you meet someone halfway when they're standing exactly where they are and they're not moving? And I don't even think it's always that people are stuck. I think sometimes that's just how they are, based on what they've experienced, what they've learned. And that kind of forces you to ask yourself, am I trying to understand them or am I trying to prove that I'm right? Because those are two completely different things. And I feel like once you start realizing that, you stop reacting the same way. You stop trying to explain everything. You stop trying to make people see what you see. And instead, you just start paying attention and adjusting how you move. And I think that's where it shifts for me. Because instead of trying to figure out what they should have done differently, I start asking myself, what can I learn from this? What is this situation showing me about them and about me? Because sometimes it's not about changing the other person, it's about recognizing something you didn't see before and deciding how you want to move going forward. For example, you ever had a friend or even someone you're talking to, and every time you open up, it somehow gets turned back to them, or they don't really hold space for you the way you do for them? And at first, you ignore it. You tell yourself, maybe I'm overthinking, maybe it's not that deep, but then it keeps happening. And now you're sitting there like, okay, this is just how they are. And that doesn't necessarily make them a bad person, but it does show you what you can expect from them. And that's the part we don't always want to accept. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's where the questions come back again. What can I learn from this? Maybe I learned to stop expecting the same level from them. Maybe I learned to communicate differently. Or maybe I just learned to move differently. And I think a lot of us struggle here because we don't want to accept people as they are. We want to accept them as who we hope they would be. That's the difference. And sometimes it's not even that deep. Sometimes it's just realizing this person is just not wired the same way I am. And that's okay. But it also means I have to adjust my expectations. Have you been trying to understand someone lately? Or have you been trying to prove your point? And what have you been learning from that? Here's our takeaway. Not everything is about someone being right or wrong. Sometimes it's just about recognizing who someone is and choosing how to respond to that. Take what you need from today's conversation and leave the rest. We'll keep unpacking next time. Thank you for listening. If today's episode sparked something for you, consider sharing it with a friend, a family member, or someone who might need this conversation. You never know. It might be exactly what they needed to hear. I'd also love to hear from you. You can email me at breathe, the letter N, unpack@gmail.com, or connect with me on Instagram at breathe, AND, unpack. Whether it's your story, your takeaway, or just a thought you want to get off your chest, this space is for all of us. And just a quick reminder, this podcast isn't therapy or professional advice. I'm learning and growing right alongside you. These are real conversations meant to spark reflection and support, not replace the help of a professional. We are building a support system together, one breath, one story, one moment at a time.